Welcome to the Nbyula Talk, Kasturi. Thank you for joining us today. Just for all of us, Kasturi has been a student and a researcher and has been enrolled in the program at Imperial College London, and she'll walk us through our journey today. Thank you for joining us today here, Kasturi.
No problem.
What was your methodology to discover the programs which would fit into your objectives, and what all criteria did you use to select the programs?
So for me, my first choice was to make my first decision was to make a choice whether US or UK. I chose UK for a master's because the programs are 1 year, and the only place where you require a 2 year degree in India is in India, and I have no plans to settle down in India. So I did not care for 2 year degree. I wanted to get done with a 1 year master's, which is not written assessment based, but more laboratory based. So while I was researching, this was one of the main things that I took into account, that my program has to be laboratory based. So instead of pursuing a Master of Science, I pursued a Master of Research.
Okay.
So this gave me almost 8 to 9 months of project single-handedly that I can
Mhm.
do on my own independently and further publish it into a peer-reviewed journal. And that is like a dream come true for any master student. And I also chose UK because the courses are very flexible.
Mhm.
For cancer research and biological sciences specifically, UK is diverse. They have institutes like Oxford, Cambridge, and main pharmaceutical companies like AstraZeneca, GSK, Merck, Pfizer even are based in are based in UK. And my last process was that getting a visa extension. Getting a visa extension in US is very difficult because of their rigid international regulations. But as per and also thankfully because of COVID, the UK government now has a graduate worker scheme because of which I can increase my student visa even though I don't have a job for like 3 years.
All
So
right.
all these things came into play while I was trying to get a master's degree in UK or a
Right.
master's degree.
All right. So this brings us to this big question that one important aspect you mentioned, that you did not want to settle in India. Can you maybe elaborate on that front?
So I've been part of labs almost all around the globe at this point of time. I have been part of labs in India, in US, and in UK.
Mhm.
If, even as anyone, if you see the research environment that is in India and that
Mhm.
is in UK, it is completely different. People are a lot motivated outside. The amount of technology that we get outside
Mhm.
to give better outcomes is a lot. The amount of exposure that you get abroad, be it US, UK, anywhere, is a lot than that we have in India itself.
In terms of the programs that you selected, you stated that you wanted to go for a 1 year program instead of a 2 year program, which would have given you more opportunity to do hands on research. Is that right? Yeah. So during that program, what was like a typical day looked like for you?
So our program, this 1 year program, the first 3 months, I had to do it online, because of COVID, because of the restrictions. So, but the first 3 months were just basically theoretical prerequisites that were taught to us. After that, when I went to UK in January, my day was pretty intensive. So it would start from 7 in the morning. I would go to my lab. This is also because I was coping up for the first 15 days that I could not because of my quarantine and everything. And so yeah, from 7 to almost 8:30, 7 p.m. So it's like a 12 and a half hour lab work had to be done, and it got quite intensive. In the first 1 2 weeks, I used to enjoy it, but after that, it got monotonous for a while. But yeah, I've been doing that for 8 months, but I don't regret doing it. And other than that, we also had a lot of deadlines that we had to do. And since it's a 1 year course, it is very difficult to maintain the deadlines because they are so close by. So even if I have just a thesis to work with, I have a mock grant proposal, I have a critical review paper, I have this, I have that. There are like several deadlines to complete, several assessments to finish, and yeah, it was not difficult. It was quite challenging, but I liked it.
So, one important aspect which keeps on coming up from all of the audiences that we have is how easy or difficult is the application process for different university. How much of time and effort do you have to spend in the application process itself? All of the application process, including SOPs and essays and whatever, yeah. And besides that, once that goes through, how easy or difficult is the financing aspect of it, then the aspect related to visa and paperwork. So your thoughts on that?
So the applications are pretty straightforward. You fill in a SOP, you get two or three letter of recommendations. If you're going to US, you give IELTS and GRE. If you're going to UK, you just give IELTS, just the English language. The application is pretty straightforward. Getting funding is a bit difficult, but it's not. But UK has a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of scholarships. There are scholarships based on your academic performance undergraduate. There are
Mm-hmm.
scholarships that are given by every department at the end of the year, like Dean Scholarship or President Scholarship. And other than that, if you cannot get through them, there are also external fundings. There are a lot of external fundings for UK. There is Great Britain. There is the Chevening scholarships. There are there are even Indian-based institutes like INLAX and from Tata Foundation. So they all give pretty much, because it's a one-year course, it's easy for them to sponsor.
Right.
But only problem with this is the deadlines are very close enough, and you have to do a lot of work. And it is important that by February or March you have an offer letter in your hand to be approved, or so that your scholarship is sanctioned by these people. So it is important, and so that's why I want to put a lot of assertion on the fact that your SOP should be really good, because that is the only piece of document through which you're selling yourself to the university, nothing else. UK universities generally do not take interviews, especially the ones that are on the top. Like for me, I only gave interview for Southampton, but I did not have any interviews for ICL or for Glasgow because I was a scholarship student. So it is only based on SOPs. So it is very important that you take time and write your SOP. For US, they will ask you to also write a research proposal, and the research proposal has to be definite, conclusive, and feasible in all aspects, because it may be that you will pursue this, even though some courses are masters taught, but there may be an option where you get to pursue your own project. So you have to put a lot more effort if you're going to US than UK, according to me. So, other than SOP, I think another important aspect of the program are letter of recommendations, and people should be very careful of who they enlist as their referee.
Okay.
Anyone cannot be your reference, even if it says that it has to be remote. Just like when you fill up application, it says that they have to be from your academic field, but it doesn't mean that you pick up any, you select any teacher from your academic field and just put them as a referee, because that counts. That person has to know you. That person has to have had one-on-one conversation with you, understand what you are capable of, because there are various aspects of that our references get. That whole page is huge, and they have to fill in every detail, and some random person cannot be your referee. That is one of the reasons that it is very important that you select, like, I'm thinking people who are going for a master's degree, even in other departments like IT, they're also a part of engineering degree, so they have 4 years to understand and select which referee they will ask. And this has to be done by the end of their third year, because that is when the applications close for fourth year, like after that, so that they can continue their education from undergrad to masters.
Right.
And other than that, I think it is important to put time in SOPs, because an important aspect in this is that you research the institution other than just writing about yourself.
Yeah. So, Kasturi, one part that you mentioned was finance, and that could be tricky. Of course, scholarships and financial aids are available, but can you maybe elaborate a little bit more? Like, what were your thoughts back then?
I did not apply to scholarships as such,
Mm-hmm.
because by the time I was not sure whether I was going to do it directly a master's after my undergrad, or I'm going to take some time because of COVID going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I got all my offer letters by January end. So I had to make a decision. And by that point of time, the scholarships were over, but they were already offering me a scholarship from this, like a nominal scholarship, but it was still lesser than the huge amount of international fees that they take.
Mhm.
But so I went for it. But other than that, say if your application deadline is in November, your
Mhm.
scholarship deadlines are just 1 week before that for any kind of scholarship. It will be November and December. So you have to know where you're applying. You have so if you're thinking like that, then you will have to have more than one SOP, because your scholarship SOP and your application SOP are very different in nature, according to the research that I have done. Your scholarship SOPs are more intensive. You have to describe yourself more in that, because
Mhm.
it's competition funded. So they're very, very competitive in nature.
Mhm.
Getting a Chevening scholarship is like getting is like a dream come true. I think they only offer 10 or 12 all over
Yeah.
their whole criteria. So getting through that and being able to put that on your resume gives you a kickstart that you need even after your master's. So that is important. And other than these external fundings, every department has their own scholarships. So it is a bit difficult for international students, because these scholarships are based on students who are transferring from an undergraduate program to a graduate program, so they have their own bursaries. But other
Right.
than that, even at the end of the year, say if you are in the top 5, they give you a dean scholarship. Or there is like in our Imperial, we had president scholarship that was so they used to take 10 people
Mhm.
from all the departments that are there in this one. And so like all the departments that were there, the biological sciences, metallurgy, everything that was there. From there, they used to select 10 candidates and used to refund or help them fund their other future projects or something like that. These applications have to be done separately, and these are never a part of the normal application. So if you are going to get a scholarship based on your application, they will anyway give it to you. But if you have to apply for these other ones, then you have to apply separately, and these applications are also before your application deadline.
In terms of living, and a lot of students talk about accommodation and how that can be like really nerve wracking. What was your experience?
So, since I needed accommodation for like more than 11 months, I went for just the university accommodation. It was very convenient for me because my lab was 5 minutes away, which
Hmm.
means I saved
Hmm.
hundreds of pounds on transport. Transport
Right.
in UK is very expensive,
Yes.
like very expensive.
Yes.
Other than that, if your campus is centrally based, I think you can easily find cheaper accommodation.
Hmm.
Accommodation is not a problem. The only problem is getting scammed. So it is very important that you have someone over there, or you go through an agency,
Yeah.
and before you pay the money, you have someone look over it and know that this person is genuine, because this happened to my friends, and luckily they got their money back. But
Hmm.
I think it's important that you are aware of the things that can happen. Just because it is abroad doesn't mean that these things don't happen. It happened in a lot. So it's
Yes.
important. But university accommodations are more costlier than normal accommodation. But if you're going for a 2 year degree, I think after the first 5 months, you can easily find a place, go there, talk to the owner, and just get a place much cheaper than your own, because these include all utilities and everything. So it costs around 700 pounds. Yeah, 700 pounds. So, then university nowadays, because of these scams and all, universities
Mhm.
have started a web page where verified owners enlist their properties on the university website. So you already know that it's safe to enroll in, and they're almost of this same budget, close to the university. Plus, you don't pay so much. So that's a safe way to do it, other than just go through agency, pay them a commission or something.
Yeah, and how easy or difficult is it to, let's say, get into internships or short-term jobs or something else, which might be an opportunity post your program?
So I'm currently applying for doctoral degrees
Hmm.
outside,
Hmm.
uh, and I'm taking sort of a break right now because I've been having 2016 to 2021 continuously. But my programs will start from May or April. It was the applications are fairly simple. It's the same. You put letter of recommendations, you put a SOP that
Right.
say these doctoral these degrees doesn't even need a research proposal.
Mhm.
because there are already scientists working on them and they're recruiting you.
Mhm.
So there are intensive interviews.
Mhm.
As for job, it is almost zero for international students at this point in time. Even if you have done a master's outside, they will prefer to take their own citizens than you. And
Mhm.
getting into a job with just a master degree is almost impossible. You need to have a PhD degree to get into any kind of, even for entry level, you for in biological sciences, even for entry level, you need 5 to 6 years of experience, and your academic experience doesn't count in that according
Mhm.
to their posting. So
Right.
it is difficult to get a job. So I chose to do a. I didn't choose to. There are no other options to do. You have to
Right.
do a PhD. After PhD, hopefully, I don't know about UK, but in Europe, it is easier to get placed into
Right.
companies.
Right.
And the problem with US is maximum of these biotechnology research projects are funded by the government, and it is
Mhm.
their sole criteria that international students cannot apply for them. You will not even be considered for the job.
Right.
So, like for students, I have friends studying 2-year masters in different streams. So when they have sometimes, say, career fairs, they're not even allowed to attend because they're not going to get sick. They're not even going to get, how do I say, considered for the job.
Right.
So it is you have to tap forward your study for
Yeah.
another 3 4 years to get properly placed, to get
Yeah.
a well established finance.
Which actually brings me to this particular point that Europe is vastly different in this aspect than both UK and US. In Europe, there are no such barriers as a master's student. In fact, if you graduated from one of the European universities, pretty much you'll be considered at par with the citizens. Yeah, and if you are selected or not selected, it would not be because of your international status. Yeah. So, which in fact, like this is a great point that you brought up, because if someone is thinking about a post-study job, then maybe Europe is a much better destination in those cases.
It has actually become more difficult because of COVID, because of so much restrictions. So
Hmm.
even if you per se get a job, say in US, they will not give you a H-1B visa
Right.
because there, I don't know, there are some regulations that this has to be the minimum salary, and nobody is going to give you that much salary for an entry level job. It is not possible.
Yes.
Maybe you work 3 4 years, then you get that salary. So it's just like it's
Yes.
really sad, but it is.
I know. One of the things which a lot and the India sends a huge chunk of their talent pool to US, with many in the hopes of, like, immigrating, most in the hopes of immigrating. The problem is this, that the way US visa system or green card system works, the residency system works, is not on the basis of the skills or what have you done. It's on the basis of a lottery based system, which makes you wonder about a lot of things. But that being said, that's how the system is, and it can be extremely difficult to get a residency or a green card in US. And another thing which has sort of come to the front is the whole Brexit issue. Yeah, after which UK is trying to a certain level, at least retain onto the talent that has come for all the programs. But that said, again, as you highlighted, the industry in UK is not on the same page. Uh, as like in Europe, it's a very different situation and scenario. So yeah, this is actually a very good point that you brought up. It would immensely help a lot of our audiences. Um, uh, Now, a couple of like questions which our audiences have been sort of raring to ask. Rahul asks, "What are the three biggest challenges that you faced in your international higher studies journey? If you can
Uh,
elaborate on them."
while I was here, I just talked about feeling like an outsider is a
Mhm.
problem. If
Mhm.
you have communication problems, if you're leaving home for the first time, it will
Mhm.
be quite difficult for you to cope up for the
Mhm.
first 1 month. It is important that you communicate. Uh, I think the second one was meeting university standards.
Mhm.
University standards in India and abroad are very different. Their
Yeah.
marking schemes are very different. You cannot copy paste from research papers
Yeah.
or Wikipedia for that
Yeah.
say and just give assignments. You will see, like initially, I was talking to a few of my friends in Imperial, and they were like, we used to get A plus and all, and our grades have dropped to C and B. It has gone that bad because they critically because since it's a 1 year program and you have say 5 deadlines, they're going to review each paper for almost 1 to 1.5 months, and they're going to critically analyze what you have done and especially what you have not done and give you a detailed feedback of why you have gotten a C instead of a A. So it is very, very important that you understand what the university wants from you. You cannot give assignments like in engineering. It doesn't work like that. And
Right.
I think these were the two main challenges I faced. My third challenge was just the lockdown because it was a bit isolating. But other
Right.
than that, I did not face a lot of challenges.
Right.
I think it's a bit difficult to adapt to their culture a bit, but again, if you have an intensive course, it is important to communicate with your supervisors, and it is also important to set boundaries about your comfort. If you're not comfortable working 13 hours, it's better to work 6 hours productively than just sit there 13 hours and waste an experiment or waste your time. It's important that you talk to your supervisor, say that I can't do this at this point of time, but I will get it done by the deadline. So it is very important to set boundaries while you communicate and let them know what you're with, to understand what they want out of you, and then meet at a midpoint.
Right. It's very fundamentally different the way we have been taught to do things in while
Yeah.
growing up in India. It's a instruction based and a hierarchy based system where and you're told what to do, and most of the time you would rather say yes than no, and
So
even sorry.
you can't say no.
That's right. You can't say no, and which makes it really difficult to work in an environment where critical analysis and critical thinking, originality of ideas is an intricate part of getting things done. Um, because we are not used to asking questions and asserting our own thought process, and that's an important thing to sort of unlearn before you start your program in the developed nation universities. So thank you for highlighting that. Another question comes from Prerna. What she wants to know is how much post-study job options play a role in the program selections, or how did you think about it?
I think primarily it should be clear to you where you want to, where you see, which country or which place you see yourself in the next 5 years by the end of your, say, undergraduate degree. If you want to settle down in India, it is important that you choose a 2 year course because your 1 year degree does not have any value in India. You will have to give GATE to even be considered for the doctoral or any kind of job application. You have to give the exams again because at that point of time when you submit your CV, they will only consider your BTech degree or your bachelor's degree and not your master's degree. So it is very important that you enroll into a 2 year course if you're going to settle down in India. If you're going to settle down outside, you need to know what job prospects are there. Most importantly, if they are going to allow you to apply for the job, there are a lot of openings for and these openings generally start from October to November. That is the recruitment season in UK as well as in US. But the problem is again they have citizenship criteria. So you need to know. I think for other streams, it is pretty straightforward. If you're from science or something else, you get placed easily. There are opportunities, but if you are in streams that are government funded research projects where
Mhm.
what you're doing are exclusive, then it is very difficult to get without a green card or like without a citizenship. It
Right.
is fairly easy to get so in Canada or in Europe, like you said. in UK, it is very difficult. Job prospects are there, but you need to know if you will get it. If you are exceptional, if you are like graduating magna cum laude in your this thing, maybe then government will want you to do, because I was speaking to my supervisor and he told me that even if I do select you for this job, there's a quota on their um, like on their application where they have to justify that they're taking me and not another of their own citizen. So in that case, there is someone with my skill set, obviously, who is present in UK. So that is a bit of a problem at that. There's a one problem is if you are very keen on getting a job, I would say when there is a part of the application which says, "Do you want a visa sponsorship?" You say no, that I can fund it myself. A large number of applications because they do not want to give visa sponsorship. Visa sponsorship for international students are very high, and no company wants to bear that load of amount on top of your salary. So if you're very keen on getting a job, it is important because that is a very nominal amount, and you can't take it out of your salary and sponsor your own visa. It doesn't matter because the pay range in UK is pretty high. The amount they'll give you is enough to for your food, for your accommodation, for your visa, for your transport, and then you have amount to save up in your bank. So
That's actually a very good point. And sponsoring visa by yourself also sounds like at least a fair deal
yeah.
initially. Yeah, because to think of like the businesses shouldn't have to take that risk. Yeah. So this is actually a very good point. This is a very good point that if you are really interested in job, you mentioned that you'll be sponsoring your visa. Is this something that an applicant needs to do before applying for the job or after getting the offer letter?
So this is a question in your questionnaire when you fill for an application. So they'll
Mhm,
ask you to have a visa, which nationality are you from, and do you need a visa sponsorship, or
mhm,
have you had a visa? So if you are a UK student on a student on a UK visa, tier four visa,
mhm,
and you can just say that I have a visa, but I have the financial stability to promote
mhm,
my skilled worker visa. So
mhm,
I think that makes you a bit more eligible than the
mhm,
rest of them because in the Department of Bio,
mhm.
everything is research funded and they already have so less
That's
money. They do
that's
not want to spend more on sponsorship. So it is it's okay if you can, it just takes £200 per
yeah,
year.
yeah.
So you can give the £200 to
That's right.
get.
That's right. Which is even from like most of like medium or upper medium families, students coming from those in India, it would not be such a big deal to do on an yearly basis, and it sounds fine. But that also makes Europe such a different place where like there are no visa sponsorships per se. So which actually makes it like super lucrative for students looking for job opportunities down the line. Um, so another question which comes from Neha. Neha wants to know what online or offline researches did you do while selecting the programs? Did you think about consulting anybody in person, some education consultants or some seniors or someone else to give you a little bit of bearings as to what you're supposed to
I think I consulted my project teachers
do?
both at Harvard and at SRM,
Mhm,
and they helped me single out universities that met all of my criteria except for just some. They were
mhm,
very specific. They have always been telling me to go for a university that meets all of your requirements and not just one.
mhm,
And I think that was a crucial aspect of me singling out these three universities because they met all of my requirements. For other searches that I did were just through normal Google. I did not consult any other agency,
mhm,
but there are a lot of open days and seminars that go through. I
mhm,
think we can take part in them to get to know what the institution wants from us and
mhm,
not only just assert on the fact that what I want out of a degree. I think so attending the seminars, the webinars, and the open days are important. There are also international, um, I think international, how do I say it? Their system who recruit from international, who recruit international students. They
mhm,
come visit India.
mhm,
They there. So during these open days,
Right.
This is how I came across Southampton University. So
Mm-hmm.
they had come for open day at our institution, and I
Mm-hmm.
met her name is I met Donna, and she told me about this master's degree
Mm-hmm.
and how what they want out of me. So I think it's important to talk with the people who are going to recruit you, the HR managers. Yeah, the HR managers who are going to recruit you. You can even email them to
Mm-hmm.
see. And apart from that, I don't think you need a lot of research to understand because you already know that you want to major in this, like electrical engineering. You want to major in this, so you are anyway going to just go and search masters in electrical engineering, and anyway they give you universities based by rank.
Right.
So it's good to apply two at the top, five in the middle, and three below. So it's
Right.
just like that. Yeah.
Right. Right. Another aspiring student of Nbyula says, "I'm from SRM, and seeing you there gives me hope." But SRM, in the end, and Imperial College, Imperial is top 10 in the entire world, so it's a long shot. Did you ever think or had a plan B that if you're not gonna make it into Imperial, even Southampton and Glasgow are very good universities, but honestly, like, did you think that your chances coming from SRM are not that great?
I did not have any expectations from Imperial College London. I did
Okay.
not have any expectations from the other two colleges itself because
Okay.
I know the margins of the acceptance for these colleges are very less. Like
Hmm.
Imperial takes 8% of the students. So
Hmm.
I did not think that I will get into the 8% because there are people who are applying for Oxford and I don't know other IITs and everywhere to
Right.
go into this kind of places. But I think no, not at
Okay.
all. I had not expected it at all. It was very surprising because in the month of January I got all my three offer letters. And I was like, okay, this like I thought I'll have one offer letter or nothing, and at that point of time I was like, okay, now I have to choose which one I should get.
What do you think made the difference in the end for you, that you had such a good outcome?
I think I had a lot of exposure to SRM. I was
Mhm.
not only restricted by my academic, like the curriculum. I took part in a lot of conferences. I
Mhm.
went for SAP. Actually, I was recommended for SAP by my teachers. I didn't even fill up the applications.
Mhm.
And the SAP programs are quite selective. And so SRM has memorandum with different institutions, and you get placed according to your cutoff. So it is very important to, even if they say that your GPA doesn't matter, your GPA does matter at the end of the day. You need to
That's
have
that's
cutoff
that's
to,
true. Yeah, we do live in a world where a single score does determine your destiny, but yeah,
yeah,
which is the
maybe
reality.
maybe your 12th standard doesn't matter, but your engineering GPA does matter because you should at least have a 70% mark to get considered because the websites will tell you that their cutoff is 60%, but they do not actually take students who are lesser than 70% or 75% because that is their standard
All
because
right.
they that is the reason they are top 8 in the world
Right.
or top
Right.
10 in the world.
Right.
Even on Oxford page, if you go, their criteria is 60%, but they do not take anyone below 90% cutoff in Oxford.
Right.
It's even written below on their thing, although it is said so only the top holders of your undergraduate course will get into because they only take 9 people in a course or 10 people like that. So it's very selective. So for me, I think the SAP program, the other stuff that I did, I had a lot of research exposure.
Mhm.
Like even during summer breaks, I was engaged with different places where I could, even if I didn't have a paper published, I knew different methodologies. So
Mhm.
when I put that on my resume, and the person who's hiring me or who's recruiting me to be a student in their place knows that yes, I have done this. So I require minimal training
Mhm.
before I can do something productive. They don't want to waste a lot of time training you. They
No.
will. They don't
Yeah.
want to waste a lot of time. It's important that you be a quick learner
Right.
and you are exposed because you have 4 years to do this. So
Right.
it's not an excuse that I didn't have time.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, what you're saying that essentially your entire profile should demonstrate that you are a self-starter, you're motivated and driven, and that you have the right set of skills, even preliminary ones, which demonstrate that you can hit the ground running. Yeah, that you wouldn't require a lot of hand holding while getting the particular course. That sounds really great, Kasturi, and for all the wonderful insights and for all the time that you gave us. And thank you for being here. And we hope to have more conversations in the future where our attendees can benefit from this. And you also give a lot of people hope that it's not just the Ivy Leagues or the IITs of the world, that you can get into the top 10, 20, or 50 of the world. You do the right things, you craft out and you focus and apply yourself the right way. And everybody's got a fair bit of chance. So thank you so much for everything, Kasturi, and we enjoyed having you on board, and we look forward to more conversations in the future. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Yeah.